Ayo, back at it again with another video. Thank you all for watching. I greatly appreciate it. So this video is about the Big Ten, or currently, well, they will have 18. So I cropped the Big Ten logo to just the 1 and the G because the 1 and the G look like 18 in a way. So the Big Ten, or Big 18, is basically now a coast to coast conference. So let's look into the Big Ten. Currently, there are 14 teams plus 2 affiliates and 4 moving into the future. So this is the current makeup of the Big Ten. You have Nebraska, Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Maryland, and New Jersey. So predominantly focused in the Midwest. You have also access to media markets in the Mid-Atlantic region, Northeast. It can kind of tap into the New York City market, DC market, Baltimore, Philly, Jersey as well, while also tapping into Chicago market. So obviously the 3 biggest cities are LA on the west coast, Chicago in the middle, and New York on the east coast. And now that there are 4 new schools coming into the Big Ten from the Pac-12, you got UCLA, University of Oregon, University of Southern California, USC, and University of Washington. So you tap into that Seattle market and that Portland market, but also most importantly, Southern California and Los Angeles. So if we go back to this map, you can now fill in the blue states of Washington, Oregon, and California. So you can now tap into that New York City market, that Chicago market, and also that Los Angeles media metro market. And ultimately, gain a lot more in terms of revenue, in terms of their TV deal. So let's look at the map. So it is now officially coast to coast. UCLA, USC, Oregon, Washington on the west coast and here in the Pacific. And then Penn State, Rutgers, Maryland on the Mid-Atlantic, Northeast, East Coast. So coast to coast from Oregon to Rutgers, Washington to Maryland, UCLA, USC, from LA basically to New York City, essentially, because Rutgers is kind of in that media market, if I understand that correctly. So, predominantly focused in the Midwest, you got states Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Michigan, predominantly focused here, but they've expanded. I believe Penn State, Rutgers, and Maryland joined in the mid 2010s. I think it was 2011 or 2012. And then very recently with college realignment, focusing more on the super conference model. UCLA, USC, Oregon, and Washington decides to join. So now the Big Ten has a lot of opportunity to grow in their TV deals. So this was this article from ESPN written August 2022. Big Ten completes 7-year, $7 billion media rights agreement with Fox, CBS, and NBC. So that is 7 years, $7 billion. So roughly $1 billion per year. So that was just with the existing colleges. So IU, Maryland, Michigan, Michigan State, Ohio State, Penn State, Rutgers, Illinois, Iowa, Minnesota, Nebraska, Northwestern, Purdue, and Wisconsin, without that media market of the West Coast of Southern California, LA, but also Oregon and Washington. So that's 7 years, $7 billion for the 14 teams. So if you take $1 billion, I'm going to do this calculation on my phone. So we're going to take 1 billion divided by about 14 schools. So you're bringing in what looks to be roughly 70 million, which is a lot. That's a lot of money. Um, if you add new schools, that revenue share potentially dwindles because you have to have more money spread out over more members. But when they ultimately potentially renegotiate that deal, whether after the 7 years or even potentially sooner, they can now present to these networks like Fox, CBS, NBC, uh, maybe potentially throw Amazon as a bidder in there in the future, maybe throw Apple in there as a bidder in the future. But ultimately, once you add these new schools in these really big markets, especially Southern California, you're going to get more than 7 years, 7 billion. You're potentially looking at a deal potentially 10, 20 billion dollars over the course of however long, whether it's 7 years, whether that's 5 years, whatever your media rights agreement is with Fox, CBS, NBC, or any other potentially media distributors. So I think this is brilliant. I think this is absolutely brilliant on the Big Ten's part. I'm a huge Big Ten fan. My brother goes to IU. Family's big into Purdue. We really big into Michigan fan. We're big Michigan fans. Um, yeah, we're a Big Ten family, and you know, I'm from a college football perspective. Yeah, it's sad that the Pac-12 is basically dead. That's sad. But now I could potentially get to watch, you know, 18 teams from across the country compete. We could have, Michigan and Ohio State play, but then also you could have Michigan and UCLA and USC, and then you can have Penn State travel to Washington or Oregon, or you can have so many different options to kind of work with, and I think this is brilliant of them. Personally, if I were the Big Ten, I would engage with Stanford and Cal to see if we can have 6 members on the West Coast, because they can also bring a lot, especially since they're in more Northern California. You can bring in the San Jose media market, San Francisco media market. You can basically what they have done with the basically coast to coast conference, which is great. You get to bring in more revenue for your TV deals. You can bring in more fans to your Big Ten brand. UCLA, USC, all these have massive followings. But what they did is you can now have all day football content, all day basketball content, or the Big Ten is really good in both football and basketball. You got some really good football players here, football powerhouses. But then you also have some really good NBA, basketball, not NBA. You have college basketball powerhouses, and then you add UCLA, USC, who are really good at basketball, and then also add Washington, Oregon into the mix. You really have a good football and basketball all day, either streaming or whatever. Basically, you're having an all day from start to finish Big Ten football, baseball, basketball, whatever. So I think Big Ten has put themselves in a really good position. They already have a 7-year, $7 billion media agreement that was signed, was at 2022. The deal begins July of 2023 and runs through the 2029 year. But once that expires or they renegotiate, they can absolutely get more than 7 years, $7 billion. They've put themselves in a really good position to have a very massive media agreement, and then that would enhance the school's finances considerably. So that's the end of the video. Mega Big Ten. Big Ten's now essentially the Big 18, but they're going to keep the Big Ten because that's the brand that they're trying to build. And that's the end of the video. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Deuces.